Something I've been working on for, I guess, 35 years since I first got the teaching on it, which is something called the Chinese Almanac in English. It's called Tong Shu in Chinese. It's about all the astrological influences in the Chinese tradition acting on a particular day. In other words, each day of the calendar, the various cycles are in different places. So each one of these cycles creates an opportunity, an auspices for certain kinds of activity that might go for a day or two, or might go just for one day, might go for a week, etc. These cycles have been, created by Chinese tribal cultures and synthesized and made into a single system by brilliant astrologers of China's medieval times. When I say the word Chinese, like the word Indian today, the word Indian really is a British invention. The word Chinese is actually a Chinese invention. It's about 80 cultures that have been synthesized intentionally. So there are many, many, many different indicator cycles. And they were synthesized by the central government over a long period of time. So this book in Chinese has been published for longer than any book in human history. We know that the data was being used 3,500 years ago. There's certainly a lot more Tong Shus in the world than Bibles. And the book cost 2 cents for most of its history and was published by the government. So I can't publish it for 2 cents, but it is a subscription series called Bamboo Grove. And the reason it's called Bamboo Grove is the main thing that I've taught over the last 20 years about astrology is something called jieqi, which means, when bamboo grows, it grows and then creates a joint which holds water for the next growth, creates a joint and holds water for the next growth. And then it's stronger than steel. Yeah. But that jia means that joint. So in Chinese astrology, we talk really about Chinese astrology as being jieqi, is watching how things close up and support the next, and etc. That our lives are kind of like chapters. I think of this as some kind of semi-retirement, but it is also, this is 102, 106, 108. If you actually start looking at this, and that I will be in the future teaching astrology, but I'm not 101 anymore. If you become familiar through study of your own experience of astrology, it's much better than books. Yeah. If you read the blog and go, yeah, well, whatever. I'm going to do it anyway because they're coming today, so I'm going to, and it blows up in your face. It's way better than reading a book. Yeah. And you have nothing to do, and it says extremely auspicious with various activities, and you sense the chi of it. It was a wasted day. Yeah, because we're not supposed to get this right. We're just supposed to recognize. Yeah? When we have that kind of experience, then you become an advanced astrology student, no matter what you think your level is. Yeah. It's not a didactic subject. It has to come from gut. Yeah. The reason I even know about this, and the reason I've studied it for 40 years, is I was given these manuals for the performance of ritual in Taoist tradition. Chinese Taoism, for instance, is largely a ritual tradition, and it isn't based on weddings and funerals. It's based on the calendar. That if the priests are observing the Tong Shu, see that there is some kind of negative quality in the jieqi coming, then they'll prescribe a ritual that they'll do upstairs alone, not part of the community. They'll just do a ritual that will harmonize that. If they've missed something, for instance, and the chief of the village comes to the temple, 3 miscarriages in the last 30 days, they immediately do calculations about an auspicious day, and the miscarriages stop. They fill up wells. We've been fishing here for 2,000 years. There's no fish this month. Okay. There'll be more fish a week from Wednesday. Yeah. And this book has been not just published for almost 3,000 years, but it's also been revised by the entire Chinese scholar community of China's history. Everybody read it. Taoists read it for ritual. Farmers read it for planting and harvesting. The army read it for auspicious confrontations. Doctors had it on their desk for 2,000 years. Only really in the 1930s did it stop being so popular to look at the astrological significance of medical treatment. Like there are auspicious days for certain kinds of treatments and inauspicious days, etc., including the fact that acupuncture channels open and close various days, and that the points themselves open and close in the same way maybe the flickering of stars in the sky. Yeah. When they're open, their indications are actually kind of washed away. In other words, instead of Shanghai-style modern TCM, a point is what the Shanghai book says it is until it's open. When it's open, then it responds to the patient, This is something that the Japanese have also discovered. It's true of the really famous mushrooms in China that they thought were cures for particular diseases. But as it turns out, when the patient eats the mushroom, it adapts to the patient's body, does a diagnosis, and treats the illness. Yeah, it's one of the only plants that do this. Well, the same idea of acupuncture points is when they're open, they actually, doesn't matter, you just use them. And if Shanghai TCM says it only does X, Y, and Z, it's just wrong that day. Also, some of these points, when they open, also go through to 8 extra channels, etc. So there's a section in the blog about medicine, because doctor used it too. Everybody read it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm offering it in English with interpretation, not just translated from Chinese, but also translated, meaning that I've spent 25 years understanding that most of my readers will not be digging wells. So on a qi level, what does that mean, to dig a well? It means look for new resources, do research, Google. Okay. So I've not just translated it because Chinglish is useless to everybody. Yeah. Instead, I've actually gone for trying to understand the meaning. So it is very personal, but on the one hand, on the other hand, it's 35 years of being shy. I never did it. Now we did it. And it's available.